Hi, everyone. Welcome to this evening's panel. My name is Lana Shamma. I'm a programs manager with Art Jameel, and I wanted to welcome everyone for joining us this evening for this talk that's in partnership with GPP Photo Week. Thank you to the GPP team and to Mohamed Somji for giving us this platform for photographers from the Gulf and from the wider area to get together and share their passion for photography. And we're so happy that our exhibition, Saudi Scene, has coincided with this to celebrate. It's our first time as Art Jameel to participate in Photo Week, and it's really exciting for us to bridge Photography Jameel's programming in Jeddah with new audiences here in Dubai. And it's really great because a couple of our photographers are from Saudi Arabia and met for the first time here this evening. So we're really excited for all of you to share this with us. Hopefully a lot of you have gotten to see the exhibition already. I'll do quick introductions. We have Majed Angawi here, who's here from Jeddah, and he's interested in street photography and also analog form. And he says he only dreams in black and white. We have Moath Alofi, who is starting up Al-Munawwara Art Initiative in Medina, and also has an interdisciplinary studio called Al-Madba, and is a member of Earth Team, which does really great safari trips where people can use drones and get to know the landscape in Saudi Arabia. And we have Kholood Al-Bakr here, who actually started, co-started at Phone Art Saudi, which has a significant number of followers on Instagram and is creating a bank of photos on the internet for people to get to know Saudi Arabia better. And she is also interested in street photography, and that came from her love for humanitarianism. And finally, Tasneem, to my right, is a freelance and investigative journalist who also works as a wedding photographer. I'm sure a lot of you have gotten to know her over the course of the past week. And she's also a member of Rawia, which is the first all-female photography collective in the Middle East. And she's also opening her solo show here on February 13th at the East Wing, which is very exciting. So we're going to have a bit of a conversation, and then we'll open up for questions at the end. So I have a question for all of you. The common thread is that none of you studied photography. We have someone who's interested in business. We have an environmentalist, and we have English lit, and both of you are English lit, actually, but you also have a graduate degree in social anthropology. So, how did you all get into photography?
I asked for a camera when I was 9, back in the days where no one else had cameras. So I bought one from a pharmacy, and I started photographing everything, but I had only 30 images a roll. I guess it was a hobby, but I'm sure a lot of you understand when we say that Arab parents don't really like art or understand it because art doesn't, it's not a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer. It's not the jobs that they crave for their children to have. So I went to the path that I was asked to, which was into academics. And after I graduated from my master's, I came to the US, to Saudi from the US, and I didn't get initially a job. So I started photographing my family, my children, and then slowly that opened up worlds, and I started charging people. And then 3 years after that, I quit my teaching job, and yeah, that's how it started. By chance.
The thing is, it started at a very young age when my father and mother used to have those old slides. My mother used to live in southern of Saudi Arabia. My father used to live in Hayel, unlike my hometown, Riyadh, where it's basically there's no street life whatsoever. So I had these memories of the little film slides of their hometown, of their neighborhood, and I started exploring Riyadh capital. I was courageous enough to, because it's based on, the transportation is just based on cars. No one is walking in the streets. There's no street life whatsoever. So I was trying to search for that essence. And since I worked with as a humanitarian, I volunteered with various organizations, sorry. So this photo, for example, that was one of the first photos that I've took, because I used to visit those little unfortunate families. And the boy and his sister just came out, and here I developed the passion of street life in Riyadh. Then I co-partnered with an organization called Phone Art Saudi, where we take photo walks around the kingdom. We are an organization, a platform of around 120 photographers around Saudi Arabia, trying our best to enrich and to enrich the content of Saudi Arabia in general. I mean, in all countries and cities of Saudi Arabia, because there's a cliche. If you search engine, I mean, and you write Saudi Arabia, a photo of a Mamlaka or Faisaliya or a desert comes up. So far, thank God, we have a really very rich archive, and that's it. That's my journey.
Okay, I started photography at 2010 by pure coincidence and curiosity. I just took a piece of towel with a point-and-shoot camera. I just threw the towel in the air. I took the picture, and the towel was freezed in the air in the picture. So I was mind blown by the towel freezed in the air. And then at 2012, I met a mentor called, his name is Saud Mahjoub, and he taught me in the hard way. If you watch Whiplash, kind of similar thing. And then I started my company on 2016, Sir 24 Productions. We do photography and videography services. And yes.
Well, I really want that picture too, buddy.
Thank you so much.
No, really, serious. I loved it. Yeah. Well, my name is Moath. Short story is that when we used to travel, my mom is actually from Syria. I know I don't look like at all Syrian, but yeah. And we used to travel to Syria a lot, and then I really just enjoyed and loved documenting family trips. So I remember having this small negative camera on my waist and just snapping a lot of photos. Was not the perfect ones, but been away from Medina for almost 10 years and then got back. My brother actually came to me and he like, Moaz, take this iPhone 4. There is something called Instagram. I'm like, okay. So he's like, just take photo, upload them. Got back to Medina. My thoughts, the culture shock that I felt, I start to shoot my ideas, or actually my thoughts, not the pictures, not the things I've seen. So every time I see something that is different or made me think, I'm like, okay, snap, upload, and got a lot of kind of recognition, and people start to ask, and that kept me going. And I started the whole mission in 2013, a mission called Searching for the City of Medina, because I didn't know my city for the past 30 years. And I started to explore it. I started to be a friend with it. And from the city, I spent, after 2 years, I went actually outside the city, exploring much more about the region itself, trying to show the beauty of Saudi, trying to show the beauty of the region of Medina itself. It's not just Al-Haram, which we all know. It's not just Quba, which we all know. There is much more to explore and to know. And yeah, that's it. And I kept learning and maybe improving my photography and so on. Yeah, that was it.
We've had hundreds of people come see Saudi Scene over the past month, and most of them ask me if these are really taken in Saudi Arabia, and whether or not the photographers are actually from Saudi Arabia, because they're surprised. Some people said, I've never seen a family pictured from Saudi Arabia. A couple from Colorado didn't believe that there were mountains in Saudi Arabia. And in keeping with the theme of shift your focus that we're talking about this week, I'm interested in finding out how you feel your practice as photographers has helped shift people's ideas of Saudi Arabia, or how you have been able to shift your focus about your hometown as you're taking photos. Who wants to start?
Oh, okay, I will fire up. Actually, people start to ask a lot when I took these photos. Is that in Medina? Is this really in your city? We have never seen that. We didn't know about this. Do you do tours? Do you take us there? And it's just the amount of question and dazzles and amazement that I received through these images. They're not really perfect images. It's just the thought of it, the places, the undiscovered hidden treasures kept people actually asking. And that something made me feel like happy that I'm showing something different. I'm enriching the knowledge about my own hometown and my city. And that just kept me exploring much more and more and more. Basically, that's it.
My family are always wondering when I'll be arrested because they say that I use photography to instigate trouble. I think I use photography to trigger emotion and trigger questions and provoke thoughts, maybe. But I was born and I grew up all my life in the West, but I never fit in there. But then when I came to Saudi for the first time, like to live there when I was 16, I didn't live as I wasn't a typical Saudi, so I didn't understand both. So I later on, when I grew up, I understand that I'm a third culture kid, and that's fine, that's great. But I have this, I always constantly want to mediate. And I studied anthropology, and instead of writing a thesis on how, my master's thesis was actually on representation and how Saudi women felt misrepresented across the world. Well, instead of having 100 people read my thesis, I have so many more people understanding with one image the same things that I had to write pages for. So, yeah, I mean, I get the whole stereotype of we're either victims or villains, and I understand that right now the region is we're exhausted because we feel we are being photographed, but maybe not for the right reasons. And I love how local photographers now are kind of taking control, maybe just through free social media, which is amazing, great. We don't need editors anymore. But we're also kind of using our hidden stories, not just my family stories, but my friends' stories. We're just saying, like, I'm like you. And if I have the same resilience, if I have the same mindset, if I have the same love of fun, whatever, that treasure is just showing that we're all the same. So yeah, I'm using photography to do that.
To me, it's actually a self-exploration because I'm actually a girl of that town. I've never lived abroad. I've always lived, and as I explained earlier, that there was always this comparison between my father's and mother's life in the south or the north of Saudi Arabia and my life in Riyadh, capital, as dry as you can imagine. It's so dry. So I'm a very emotional person, I believe. And at the same time, I don't like to beautify whatever I see. I like to just take the photos as raw as possible. So the thing is, when I started walking down the streets alone, I thought that I would find challenges. I didn't find any challenges whatsoever. About the stereotype, one of the main stereotype that how can you, a woman in Riyadh, walk down the streets? And wouldn't you get, harassed or something? And I have thankfully never been in any situation whatsoever. So I found out that people in Riyadh are very tolerant. They are accepting even me holding a camera as a Saudi woman wearing a abaya, they're very accepting. So it's a stereotype not only internationally, stereotype even locally. So that was to me a success personally. Yes. So.
Okay, for me, what was the question?
How do you shift your focus?
Okay, how do I shift my focus? Okay, I started at the beginning just exploring a tool, and for my nature as very introvert person, I don't socialize, I don't go out, I'm very shy, or I was shy so far. And I started to use this tool to explore myself. So I tried to shoot at the street, and people start to yelling, and because the privacy is the life to everyone in Saudi. So after years, I tried to see myself in the street. So most of my shots, most of my photos, you cannot identify the place, but you can identify feelings. So I try to show more emotions, more feelings. Actually, I'm provoking myself through my images and put it in Instagram or anywhere to provoke others to think about themselves. And yes.
Speaking of Instagram, how do you feel that social media has affected your practice, for better or for worse? Do you feel like it's overexposing your photography? Do you feel like it's giving you access to new audiences? I'm curious to hear from.
One of the main beautiful thing about social media is actually knowing knowing Tasneem and Moath and Majed. We are a community, in networking, not showcasing our work. To me, with time, it started, we used to be really very anxious showing and posting photos and waiting for the likes and so on, but it has stopped so far. Now. But it has a beauty side. And I can't imagine. I keep on meeting new people from all around the world, and we're a great community. I wouldn't know Moath or Tasneem if social media is not there.
I don't know how I stumbled on Moath's work, and I love it because he's also using captions, but then it's so different than what I photograph. There's no people in your images, and it's geography in a way that I've never felt interested in. But I feel also like I want to know more. I'm interested. I'm intrigued. When is he going to post another photo? Social media is not just good for outsiders, but also obviously for socializing. But then I get interesting messages from people I've never met. I get messages from people in Iran, and I love it. A lot of times they're like, I hated Saudi Arabians, and I thought we were enemies, but now I love them because we have the same issues. I photographed the Saudi women playing basketball and entering a stadium for the first time ever, and I wasn't allowed to document at several hours, and I was stopped, but I Instagrammed the feeds, and I said, how do you photograph a story without showing people's faces of them playing basketball? And I got 20 messages that day of Iranian women saying, we also can't photograph women in a basketball stadium. I'm like, so it's great. I'm getting people from America tell me like, wow, you have TVs, you don't drive camels, and it's just... So just pushing that stereotype away is, for me, that's how social media has really helped me.
Okay. For me, social media, it started as a platform to just show my work and see other works. Then it started to be spoiler that the good works don't take its rights, that it just double tap and flip up, and you don't see anything. But now, actually, as they said, it's a communication platform and educational platform. My main inspiration and learning process is through Instagram and social media in general. So yes, to me, it's educational more than communication.
So me and Kholood met just like half an hour for the first time ever. And sometimes I'm really bad with names. So I know your work and I know the name, but I forgot that we had a conversation. And immediately when she saw me, she's like, oh my God, so your kids, did you get the iPhone for them?
Yes.
And I'm like, why? So she also has children and we're suffering the same things as parents. And I think this isn't just...
And we connected.
Yeah, we connected. So yeah, that happens because we share silly stories on Instagram.
I will just add to that. I have nothing much more to add as my friend said, but basically يعني الحمد لله بعد فضل الله على قولتهم I'm here because of social media. I came to Medina, I haven't known anyone, literally 10 years away, lost my friends, lost my contact, lost even any things that I can connect me with the other mentalities maybe in Medina, but then follow this, follow that, seeing this, and then boom, even learning about the art industry, the Saudi artist, and get inspired by them and get to know the platforms and get much better network here and there. That's what shaped me now and what made me actually talking to you guys now. So basically, yeah.
I can't help but notice that all of you are self-taught photographers, and some of you have been thrust into the art world. Some of you have become Insta-famous. How do you balance and evolve and continue to ensure that the quality of your work sort of balances technique, balances narrative, balances concept as you're evolving as photographers?
Well, I might just say that if you have a cause, if you have the passion, then you will never actually lose the way that you are heading to or that you are following. All that, maybe it will not matter if you really thought of yourself from the inside and the real message that you want to deliver somehow. You just keep going through what you really believe in. So basically, I think that's the answer, I hope. Yeah.
Everyone has their own answer, so... Yeah, just to repeat the question, I'm interested to know how you've all evolved as self-taught photographers and how you balance being an artist, a photographer, and evolving your technique and your narrative and your concept.
To me, it's a very simple answer. I'm still learning. I'm still evolving, and if the passion is there, then nothing can stop you. I hope I'm evolving, hopefully. So that's my answer.
I guess for me, I wanted to prove my parents wrong and make a living from my art. I also believe in investing in my education. So I want to pursue this as a job, then I need to educate myself. I started actually, this is like an advertisement. GPP helped me establish my career. I took a workshop here 5 years ago, I think, or 4 years ago. And from there, I met people that I admire and so on. And now I'm here with, Tanya Habchuka, who I took her mentorship from a grant 3 years ago, and that blew my mind and it changed my life because you have the people that inspire you, but it's not just using social media. I love social media and I am inspired by it constantly every day. I only follow the photographers that I want to learn from, but I think also going out and meeting them and learning from them, asking random people questions, even stupid questions like, what lens do you use? I asked those questions when I started out in my career and someone replied, and because of that, I will never turn anyone down. I might be late in my reply, but I always feel like I owe it forward because someone just answered me. They made me feel like, oh, I have a career when everyone else didn't. They doubted me.
You and I were talking a lot about critiquing each other and learning that you have to sort of be able to take constructive criticism to be able to move your craft forward. And that comes with a network, and that comes with a community of people who are able to support you in doing that. What kinds of opportunities have you been able to grasp while you were furthering your practice in Saudi Arabia, and you mentioned that you're the grant that you got, you're also part of a collective. What sorts of resources have you been able to use in order to do that?
I attended a workshop in Berlin with Claudine Dury. This is something that I would like to do at least once a year, just to showcase my work and get the constructive criticism as possible. And I would like to receive criticism from my friends freely and happily.
Again, social media. There's a lot of people. Nobody knows about them. Nobody knows they have a camera yet, but they are very, very, very well educated, and they are very, very genius in the way they gave me suggestions, critiques. Not to say that you are not a good photographer, too much black, too grainy. No, they say, what's the story? What do you want to say? And back to the question that how you get to evolve. In my eyes, there's a thought, and there is 100 million tools. And whatever tool fit the thought, then there is an art piece. So every day I'm learning something new, so I'm getting new tools to my thoughts. So I can say my thoughts better every time.
Actually, in Saudi Arabia, a friend of mine came to me maybe 2 days ago, and he was like, Moaz, things are cool, but we really need critics. We really need to talk. And maybe some young generation or emerging artists wouldn't accept that. Sometimes I feel like maybe I'm not really that comfortable if I receive something, because I feel like I have my own thoughts to that, but I grasp it. I try to take it in and just think about it much more and much more. But maybe we really need someone who can really do that job. And traveling and learning and listening to other people truly really helps. And the Saudi Arab Council, for example, in Jeddah, led by Her Royal Highness Princess Jawahar bint Majed, and the way that they are trying to educate and take us abroad and supporting us, the galleries and the artists that they bring from abroad, the curators, if we talk about the art scene, maybe mainly photography, they can really show you the way and talk to you much more and help you improve. Yeah.
Even the initiatives for the people who really believes in you, such Art Jameel. Actually, I saw the world for the first time in 2015 in Journey to Andalusia. This is my first time out of Saudi. And it was 2 weeks, 14 days, just photography from 9 a.m. till 1 a.m. again. Just taking photos, hanging around with photographers, meeting mentors. Such things really, really helpful. And this has really shifted my focus.
I think because I'm a documentarian, I always feel like I owe it to the people that I photograph. They're the first ones I need to critique my work. It's stories that represents them. So whenever I finish a story, I will show it to them and I will ask them for the caption that I think I have remembered and I wrote down, and I ask them, do you accept this? It's your story, not mine. I'm a photographer, but I'm only hitting the shutter. That's it. That's all I'm doing. I want you to feel comfortable. And because, like I said before, I feel that there's so much misrepresentation, that everyone's sensitive, and I understand that criticism is not accepted. So even when I started navigating through stories that give intimate access, that are of homes and families, of marriage, divorce, and even street photography, I always feel very aware that, or conscious that I'm taking something of people and they're not comfortable with it. It's very different than me photographing in India, where everyone just looks at me and they don't care. They've been photographed so many times. Sensitivity in Saudi, or maybe even the region, is very similar in being there. It's tense. I do get people who will send me a message and say, we feel that you are mocking us. I'm like, why? Explain it to me. And if I feel that it's correct, then I will understand that. But I think we just don't want anyone to say anything negative about us, because that's how we were raised. I don't say anything that's, that's not fully amazing and giving just pride. So yeah, I show my pictures to my mom, to the people I photograph. They can critique me. Then maybe later on I'll show it to an editor or a friend who's a professional photographer. But first, it's normal people.
Speaking of the responsibility that you have as sort of the voices for Saudi Arabia, and there's so much attention right now on Saudi Arabia. Everyone wants to understand what's happening on the inside. How do you balance that curiosity that the West has with the images that you want to show? And do you question whether or not you're creating work that the West wants to see? For example, someone who's Saudi came in and saw your series and said, "Oh, Aib, these mosques are falling apart. We don't want the Westerners to see our broken mosques. This makes us look like we're poor and not taking care of them." And someone was like, "Oh my gosh, these are all really sad stories of women. Why aren't they showing happy stories of women?" So I'm interested to know what your thought process is as you're creating narratives for audiences.
2 days ago, this journalist was with me. He wanted to interview me, and he was from a known foreigner newspaper. And that guy just kept pushing my buttons. And he's like, "The change, Moath, what's going on? And do you accept that? You don't accept that?" He even wanted to go deep about some other issues that I seriously have nothing to do with. So I just focus on what really matters to me. What is my message is. This is my way. Rather than that, I will leave it to other people. Also, when you said my mosque or the other things and stuff like that, I actually have 2 series that might be a little bit critical to show. One of them, maybe 3 of them, maybe 4 actually. Actually, all of them. I mean, like, the Doors of Berlik, the first installation I did with Athar Gallery, it was about the demolishing process that's happening in Medina, gentrification, demolishing and all of that, development. But that is, you really just need to put your message there and be in alignment with your own country. You know what I mean? And just deliver your message. But when I started 4 years ago, I was like, "This is wrong, don't do that, this is not." But then I'm like, just take it easy, man. Just show what you want to show, and that's it, you know? So, the Western media, they really need to also hold their horses a little bit. Seriously, like, it just, like, I don't want to say that, but there is much more issues more than the ones that they are really focusing on, you know? And I don't want to talk in deep about the other series, but yeah, the mosques, the shubas that they're living in a poor condition, even Khyber, one of the critical maybe regions in Saudi Arabia, and what is going on there. I just deliver my message and leave the rest. Also, something I learned actually from Tasneem when I was following your images and the way that you are shooting, and that she put the fact there in a really smart way, you know, and nothing more, nothing less. So the Western media will sometimes love to tackle that and come from different angles, but you just really need to be smart with them and show them that we are really moving and we want to move. We want to change, we want to do a lot of things. We don't have time for not moving forward because of you or something like that. Yeah.
You put it so well. I learned from an early time that I can't talk about politics and I can't talk about religion. Those things, they're red lines, but I can talk about society. And I'm not really gossiping because I also feel like I have a motherly feeling, like I'm defensive. My country, they're my people, but then it also goes to my region, all the Arabs, they're all mine. All the brown people are mine, basically. But in that defensive mode, I understand that I don't want anyone to critique us, but I can critique my own people. I can say something about it. But like, if I do it in a sensitive way, if I do it in a way that's just showing irony, like one of my images was May met the love of her life in dentistry school. They fell in love. They got married. They have 2 children. 6 years later, a day before he signed the lease of her house, he passed away. She now waits for her son to turn 16. Until then, it's her stepbrother that she has never met. He is her legal guardian. I didn't say anything. I'm already talking about different issues, but it's not my story. So I'm using people's captions in their narratives to provoke thoughts and to kind of shift our focus. It's our story. No Western editor is going to say anything bad, but also we as Saudis at least need to kind of have this dialogue of, okay, what can we fix? What can we work on?
I can't agree more with Tasneem and Moath. We have been really greatly under this microscope, Saudi Arabia, and misconceptions, and we're sick of it, honestly. You either, as a photographer or a documentarian, or you either have to beautify and in a fake way, or be on the extreme side. My idea is just be, as Moath said, be true to yourself and focus on your life and on your issues truthfully, and that's it.
Even more, I cannot agree more than what they said. But for me, I have something to say, and all I want to say and I want to do is knowing myself even better, even more. I know this is kind of a selfish, but when I put this out to the world, is the world gonna look at these pictures are pictures from an artist or Saudi artist? Because I'm talking about human. I'm talking about self-thoughts. I'm talking about self-doubt. I'm trying to provoke emotions, trying to provoke feelings. I want everyone to start to sit in front of himself and start to open files again. But people actually look at these pictures. Is this in Saudi? No, this is in your head, in your mind. Come on. So yes.
So all of you are talking about using photography as a tool. And I'm interested to know how you would like to take that tool further in your career. This is, I think, the last question we're going to do before we open up. And Moath is going to share some special work that debuted at 2139 this week as well. So we can go around.
I'm working. I'm a low profile. I'm working on lots of projects. One of them I have been working on for the past 4 or 5 years. I wish I can display it. I'm a bit chaotic about it, but I can display a bit. I'm working on documenting minorities in Saudi Arabia, Saudis. So that's it. I hope it will see light soon, hopefully.
You start.
We have to show a video. We have to show a video.
I'm multitasking. I'm working on several different stories, like you. See, I have a story coming out maybe in a week or two. I don't know. I'm photographing. Every story intrigues me. Every time I meet someone, I get an idea. I write a note. I take their contact. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's fascinating. That person is great. This group of people I want to follow. So I don't know. I'm doing so many things, and they're different. There's hierarchies of not just class and region, whatever, but I don't know. I'm photographing Saudi as it is today, and I'm also working on my Saudi Tales of Love to be a book. So it's been projected on the 13th, the solo show, but I will feel comfortable going to sleep knowing that I represented a much, much wider scale of women in Saudi Arabia. So I'm working on that. I guess that's the one that I can talk about.
Majed?
Actually, the series shown here in the exhibition is part of a photo book called Until Dawn, أو حتى مطلع الفجر. Actually, the book today, just 1 hour, it was printed. So yes, alhamdulillah. Thank you so much. So I'm working on publishing it, and I have two projects. Yes, 2 projects. I have 2 more projects. With other tools, photography and other tools.
Just to maybe not to conclude, but just to say it or to add the last work that you are going to see a glimpse of opened different dimensions to other projects. It might take me. I might have to go a little bit further, but I will, inshallah, and. It's just amazing how rich the place is. Today, I actually just found a new spot maybe 100 feet, 40 kilometers away from me. And I'm like, what was going on there? I always thought that I'm done with Medina or the region. I thought I've got everything. But every time I'm surprised that there is more, really. And I want to help my team much more, Earth documentary team. We actually just got approval from the tourism ministry and the governors of Medina to collaborate and to photograph the touristic lines or baths in Medina, which was something we have been working at for the past 4 years. We wanted that permission, and now we can actually fly over Medina. And I wanted, through the last exhibition and seeing different camera technique, to maybe step a little bit further and learn much more about the technique of photography. Not maybe deeper, but just to experience with other techniques, yeah.
Okay. So do you want to introduce your work? We're ready to...
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Are we going to... Oh,
yeah.
Mahlail. All right. So I'll just have to... I never done actually any video installation before, or shooting or filmmaking, but for the past 3 months I started a new idea, not a new idea, I wanted to show a region in Medina that is called Khaybar, that was a little bit of a taboo, that was a little bit underestimated or unexposed, so due to many circumstances. But I decided with a few ideas to just, because I flew there with this parachute, 2-seated parachute engine with my team, Earth team, and I've seen a lot from the space, from the air, and it was just crazy, the things that we have saw, and I wanted to bring that to life, and that place just kept me going and going and going. Maybe every one of us, if we go to study history or talk about history, we know the Battle of Khaybar, we know the castles of Khaybar, we know all that, and then the volcanoes of Khaybar. But then I just decided to put my thoughts and idea in just out there by using the film techniques and the drones, which is more stable. So basically decided to shoot maybe 4 to 5 sites, and I will just show you 2 minutes, maybe and a half of an 11-minute that we just displayed with the Saudi Art Council 2139. The whole movie for shooting took 3 days, a really hard 3 days, 12 hours working and driving hundreds of kilometers, but it's done. The name and the whole purpose of this movie is to shock the audience internationally, locally, about the treasures that we actually have, about the unexplored areas, and the questions that will take you more and more further if you just keep searching and looking. Especially the way that I got to this name, Mahlail. I don't know if anyone heard of it before. So basically it's one of the grandsons of Adam and Eve, and he is one of the longest living human being. He lived maybe over 800 years, and he is the grand even father of one of the founder of Khaybar, the region. So that all came from the research that I've been doing through this work, and it just stuck here, Mahlail. And it just link you to the ancient timeline that the region went through, and we can play that. We just start from here. It's a 10 minutes, so just 2 minutes to show. So it's actually 11 minutes and 30 seconds, and there is more, but for this time, I'm just gonna show these 2 minutes. Yeah.
It was an art installation at 2139, right? So do you want to describe how people experienced it? Was it in a room? Was it?
It was actually in a dark room, a big screen installation, maybe, I don't know, 3 meters by 2 or something like that, and with better sound system, I mean, good sound system. So, yeah, I think it gathers a lot of people, and the shock was there. This is my satisfaction, actually, seeing people saying, wow, where is that? How is that? What is this? And that's what I wanted, actually. So, yeah.
Okay. With that, we'll open up for questions.
So my question is to Moath. So since we have seen the beauty and significance of the archaeological sites in Medina, would people be able to access those places?
Yes, inshallah. Soon we are having new regulations, a new tourism license and visas. It's happening. Yeah, inshallah. Very soon, bihawlillah.
Okay, cool. And I think all of you should go because it's unbelievable. I've been just passing by the place and it's something I've never seen.
Thank
So
you.
we're looking forward for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum. Ya'tikum al-afiyah. Good evening. Thank you so much for this discussion. I like it. It's amazing. I got amazing ideas, and especially about Saudi Arabia photographers. We heard many stories about them, good, bad, middle, but today I saw something amazing. I like your pictures. I like your projects. And there's something very important for all photographers. Try to work on a project. Don't do it individual. And don't do it as a reaction what you are looking for or what you are seeing. I saw your projects and I like it. And this is important to encourage the others to work on projects. And take your time. Don't do it quickly. 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, but it's important to get the results, and this is what I saw in your works. Thank you so much.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you so much. Just to add on that, there is another body of work called The People of Pangaea. It took 3 years. The mosques, 3 years, 2,000 kilometer, 99 mosques. So definitely, we really need to take our time. Don't rush for the results. Don't rush even to show your work through social media, which will actually ruin it. So yeah, thank you.
Hello, thank you very much. I thought that was very interesting. My question is actually for Tasneem. Speaking of getting arrested, I am actually wondering, well, let's all agree that the whole, not just Saudi, the whole area, the whole region is full of controversial social issues, especially in relating to gender and social rules. So I'm just wondering, how much are you willing to push the boundaries here? And have you gone through your editing process? Have you gone through a phase where you said to yourself, like, this might be too much. Might not be the time for it.
Yes, exactly. I'm actually working on 2 very sensitive projects. One of them is not even in Saudi. It starts in Kuwait because I think, I don't know even if I can talk about it in Saudi Arabia, even though a lot of my friends are comfortable with that, but it basically touches upon the LGBT community. And I started photographing in Kuwait people without showing their faces. But it's funny because in Kuwait, they don't care. They just don't want me to tell their parents. So as long as they don't have a comfortable discussion with their parents, then I'm not allowed to publish their faces, but I can photograph them dressed up as they want. And for me, it's the only time that I actually am working on a project that I'm not part of it. Like when it's about Saudi women, I'm a woman. When it's about mothers, I'm a mother. I'm a wedding photographer. Like I always find a way to get in, and it was for me to throw myself out of my comfort zone. But then my friends from Bahrain or from the other rest of the region said, we want to be photographed because the way that the Western media has always portrayed the LGBT community is that they are now, they have received their freedom because of the Western media and it's allowed them to speak out. And in Kuwait, my friends are like, we've always been out. Actually, we have much better I guess, societal rules than you as a Saudi woman, or even as a Kuwaiti woman who's straight. So it's kind of made me try to photograph and understand how, as a society, we have constraints on gender issues, not necessarily segregating them alone, but it's also like, I don't know, we have issues. You can't date anyone, for instance, and I'm a straight woman, you know? So there's so many taboos that it doesn't just cover up the LGBT, but I don't think I'm comfortable enough, or the people that I'm photographing are enough to work, to finish now. So maybe in 10 years, maybe in 20, I don't know. But that's one of the topics that I'm semi-okay talking about, even though it's still not comfortable.
Actually, someone reached me 2 days ago, Nat Geo.
Yeah?
And they are trying to cover that. So, I don't know.
So they did a story last year about the gender issue, and it was great. And I actually pitched the story of, I want to cover the LGBT because I want to prove the opposite of what you've covered. It's not stigmatized as much as you think in the same way. So, yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah.
Any other questions?
If you could go back in time, would you have studied photography in university?
Good question.
I did one course and I didn't understand anything. Seriously, it was in Australia, one whole course. I got 50 out of 100. I just passed. So.
Mohammed?
Yeah, I want to say something because I'm looking at it as an Emirati, close to your culture, still, not within the culture. Working in the field of culture also, one of the most difficult things that we faced was access to information. Our culture is very oral. We don't document much, and with the access to cameras and social media, we are finally seeing a narrative from within. Everything we've seen in the past has always been an external narrative. So whenever we try to understand fashion or we try to understand social norms, we always see it from more or less a Western perspective of travelers who came to the region who documented things. But now we're seeing an entirely new narrative with so much variety and diversity. And I think this not only is just a responsibility on your end, but also I think it's beautiful the way these guys are doing it. I mean, just following some of them on the panel today has pushed me to travel to places in Saudi I didn't even think about, especially Moath's post, I must say. but yeah, I just wanted to mention this point because nobody mentioned it, that this is a narrative from within. And as Emiratis, we lack that. Even now, as Emiratis, we still get a lot of foreign narratives to our culture. And our culture, even the new generation that calls themselves Emiratis, those born in the 90s onwards, don't understand the culture from within, the narrative from within, because it's been lost. So I think it's a responsibility in terms of documentation. What you're doing is solidifying and documenting the path forward. And you play a very, very important role. And you guys have been doing a wonderful job. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you guys so much for, first of all, being here and for showing us some amazing photos that are really quite inspirational, some stories that are, I'm sure, going to push a lot of us forward in our career paths or our way of thinking. I wanted to just ask a question in terms of, you guys all, or some of you use digital cameras. You guys can take thousands and thousands of pictures. The choice of choosing certain pictures to convey a story. For example, I know Tasneem's work, and I know she could take, for example, like 2,000 photos in a wedding, right? And there's I could say that, right? So
5.
And there's a million and one ways to tell a story. How do you guys go about choosing the way in which you want to tell the story? In terms of, there's some things that are factual, there's some things that can be also quite emotional, but how do you kind of choose, okay, this is the photo that I'm going to choose to talk about, and this is the photo I'm going to do in this kind of like plethora of photos that you guys take on a day-to-day basis or within a time period?
Well, yeah, true. With digital photos, you will take as much. But for me, just what I feel, like if there is 3 images, almost the same subject, which one is talking to me? Which one is following the most basic geometry rules or something like that, just what you feel through the photography, and which one is delivering the right and true message. Yeah.
Actually, this is very, very good question because choosing the image is harder than taking it. As you said, you can take 1 million picture, but choosing the correct or the right picture, it based on knowledge. I always say, because I heard it before, taking photos is intuitive act, but sorting and editing photos is analytical act. So you have to understand the visual language to pick up the right elements and the right picture to put it in a specific place and the narrative to complete the story. Either it's a good image or it's a bad image or it's a normal image, but you have to make the narrative and to link the points together through the visual language.
So someone made a comment earlier, I can't remember who it was, but about getting like an angry reaction when you're taking photographs. So then the photographs that were taken were photographs that don't reveal the place or any people. So it's like you're keeping the secrecy within the photograph. And I'm really interested in this thing of actually not giving the audience what you want, because like someone also made a comment about people always asking, and I'm really interested in this thing of like withholding information and how to like give privacy to places and kind of like the vulnerability when everyone has access to certain kind of information, which is the other thing where you guys are talking a lot about revealing, but what about the consequences of that kind of revealing process?
So to paraphrase, how do you balance withholding information and revealing enough about a story as photographers?
The story or the person?
I mean, well, in general, there's things that were more wide about, like location. So, like not like.
I mean, location, like city, is fine. Just keep it general. That's not going to put anyone at risk. Something happened in Jeddah and Riyadh. That's it.
But like, I was kind of also referring to the comment made about like there be like a violent reaction, or people have that kind of like privacy to keep. I don't mean that literally.
I think it's more personal. I think maybe it was my comment that you're addressing. It's not the location, it's people feel uncomfortable if you're going to cast a light on them in a way that they're not used to. Like I once had a comment by someone saying, why did you mock us because the store is closed during prayer time? And I said, but I'm not mocking. She's like, but then don't show it. And I said, but it's a fact. We close at prayer time. Why are you upset about it? And she said, I don't know. I just felt you have a lot of Western followers, and if they see this, they'll mock us. And I said, but I didn't mock it. It's a fact. We have to understand and we have to appreciate as a culture that if we show something that you are not comfortable with, that doesn't mean it's mocking. Yeah, we're just, like I said, we're very tense about everything. I got another comment by a person who says, you're mocking them because they were covering their face. And I said, I'm not. I asked those women, can I photograph you? And I asked, so they know who I am. They would have asked me to remove it. They love the photo. It's the reaction of other people who are uncomfortable with the fact of Saudi women being covered. But I then get the opposite reaction when I post a photo of women that don't wear hijab in Saudi Arabia. Why are you ruining their reputation? And they start like naming them really bad things. And so there's conflict within us, but I don't take it as long as it's not attacking me personally. It's attacking our discomfort of being photographed or documented. That's a fact.
Even if I'm not shooting people, mostly, I actually don't get much closer to people. But I mean, except the Shepherds of Arabia, which is a series of portraits. But what I'm saying is Medina, the second holiest place in Islam, a lot of people will come and say, why you are showing ruins? Why you don't photograph malls? Like, man, really, seriously, as you said, it's there, it's a fact. So just shoot it and just deliver it. It's okay to see the reaction and to talk about it.
When I finished my Saudi Tales of Love, I showed it to several people, and my father, the first person who saw it, was like, they're all very sad. The story of a widow, of a divorcee, none of them are happy. And I'm like, well, one of them, it's my grandparents, their story is happy. He's like, but then my father has dementia. I'm like, again, they're facts, but if we always bring the happiness and only perfect images, then we're not doing anything. There's no issue to discuss, right? Then great, khalas, then why document it? Everything's amazing. We can talk about something like that. Even if it's sadness, adi. And then actually I had a different reaction. I started getting emails by Saudi men emailing me saying, we read your article. and we feel sad that we never appreciated the Saudi women's issues. We never understood them. We never knew about them. So sometimes a few people kind of notice, and that's, for me personally, that made my life, like, I'm happy. For all of last year, I was so happy because I got 2-3 emails like that.
I think with that we'll close. I want to thank all of you for being here and coming from 4 different cities in Saudi Arabia to come together here in Dubai, and sharing your experiences so that we can create a community of people who are sharing stories and images and narratives all together. Thank you to GPP Photo Week. And if you haven't had a chance to see the exhibition, tomorrow evening is El Cercad Lates, so we'll be open till 9 o'clock. So it's your last 2 days to see Saudi scene again. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for coming, everyone. It means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. I'm really, really honored to be with these guys. This is the first time maybe we are doing this abroad, but for the past week, I've seen a lot of talents in Saudi Arabia. The art scene is crazy. It's beautiful. So, yeah, we hope that we keep going, and thank you. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Lana.
Yeah, thank you, Lana.